Hello, it's Matthew David Hurtado, and I'm just trying to see if we've got this thing figured out yet. And all right, so we're live, and let me just make sure everything's working. Okay, so we're good to go. And this is the Natural Health Report. It's our debut episode, and hopefully as we go forward, we're going to have more and more guests coming on and more things to talk about. But what I want to tell you about tonight is something near and dear to me. And many people are going to be new to this, so they may not know my story. So tonight I'm going to start from the beginning, and we're going to go all the way up to present time and then get you caught up to speed. So back in 2006, I was at the peak of my fitness career, and I was working out 5 days a week, working out with pro athletes, and just amazing health. And I never really had any problems with my physical stamina or my body or anything, and I kind of took health for granted. But what happened after that was I took a major decline. I ended up bedridden for 2 years, and I had Lyme's disease in its late stages before I finally figured out what was happening. And by that time, my frame, which I have now, about 205 pounds of muscle, I was down to 155 pounds. So I lost all that weight, got really sick, weak, had sores all over. I was in really bad shape. And so that got me inspired to look at natural health, because I visited many doctors, and I actually ended up bankrupting my family trying to get well. We tried all sorts of natural approaches, and nothing really seemed to work until we finally found the essence of what I think really helps people break through. And it's a mind-body connection, and it also has to do with your cells. You started off as a single cell, and you became trillions of cells over time. And Raymond Francis, in his book Never Be Sick Again, talks about how there's really only two sources of disease, and that is deficiency and toxicity. So when I really started to break things down and look at it from a level of, break the basics, I started to realize what I needed to do to get myself well. I needed to manage the deficiencies, which were being caused by the bacteria in the body and the standard American diet and all the things that were happening inside of me. I needed to fix that problem. And then the toxicity was a whole other problem. And so over time, it took me a few years, but I got myself to 90% of my health back, and that's where I'm at today. And what I really want to talk about is some of these products that are on the market that are exotic. And what I mean by that are, there's a lot of things that you can buy in the health supplement stores, and I tried a lot of those things. But the problem with most products that you buy in the health food store is that, A, they import the raw ingredients from China. And, if you don't know, we're kind of in sort of a unspoken war with China, because they have all the debt. And if you notice, they're sending a lot of products to us, and they get caught all the time sending in tainted products, and the worst ones are the ones you put in your body. So they're defrauding the U.S. Gold coins and silver coins right now so good that it's almost undetectable unless you have certain measuring equipment. So there's all kinds of counterfeiting going on, and Raymond Francis discovered that it was like 90-some% of health products in the world that are these natural health products, they don't have anything of beneficial value in them. So really what it took for me to get my life back on track was to find something that was 100% absorbable so I could get it into the cell, and also to find solutions that would solve the problems that were cutting edge, that weren't just throwing darts at a dartboard. I needed a complete formula. And so our company today, called Complete Essentials, that's what we do. We offer complete formulas that are designed at solving the entire spectrum of the dis-ease process and bring people back to being whole again and being at ease. And before I get into our flagship product, because we're going to talk about RNA Drops, Complete Essentials RNA Drops today, and we're going to talk about the mind-body connection. I feel that that's one of the most important things that many people overlook in the process of being well and staying well. So there's a process or a therapy called reverse therapy and also Mickle therapy. And a lot of people that have either chronic fatigue or fibromyalgia in this country, they have these phantom pains, and they have these the fatigue that they don't understand where it's coming from, and they've seen doctor after doctor after doctor, and the doctor says, you have, this label, and they give you a coverall label like fibromyalgia because they don't know what it is. That's the point. They don't know exactly what it's caused from, but sometimes they'll even say it's anxiety, and they're actually getting closer to the real cause of it when they say something like that, because it really is something to do with the mind-body connection. And it was John Eaton, the guy who created reverse therapy, said that he believed that chronic fatigue was a post-traumatic stress disorder. So in my life, I had been labeled with post-traumatic stress disorder, and I think that was probably the most accurate label they could have given me during that time when I was going through this mind-body problem. And I just sent out this email, so I want to look at the notes, but I want to talk about the mind-body connection and 3 keys that you can use to get yourself connected again, put yourself back whole again. So if you've gotten to a place where what happens is your body will send you these little signals. At first you may feel, a little groggy here and there, and then you might have like slight pains, and then over time you find yourself, in a bed, or you can't do anything because you got this chronic pain all over your body. That's the progression of how these mind-body illnesses sort of develop. Now, take this also into consideration that I'm not a doctor, and the purpose of this show is not for me to diagnose you or treat or prevent or cure you, but I'm here to share information about what got me well, and I know it got thousands of other people well because it's pretty mainstream stuff, but it's also not mainstream enough where most people overlook a lot of this. So the mind-body connection, Dr. Mickle says there's 3 keys to putting yourself back together, and the first one is to speak your truth. Now, what that means is, let's say you grew up and you were taught to be a nice person, and all your life you've worried about how other people feel, and this kind of escalated to where you have your own relationships, maybe your own family, and you're worried about being politically correct or pleasing people who don't really deserve pleasing, and you want to be nice, so you've been doing this for a long time, and then you find yourself sick, and you don't know how you got sick. Well, one of the keys is you have to speak your truth, and that means to assert your feelings. So in my life, in my example, I was one of those people. I was taught that I need to be, polite and friendly and treat people nice. And the problem was a lot of people in my life didn't deserve that kind of treatment. In fact, they deserved me to tell them to, screw off, get out of my life. You're making me feel like you're smothering me. I don't want anything to do with you. Get out. And sometimes you have to just speak up and assert yourself. And that's one of the most important keys to having a mind-body harmonious connection. The next key is to have boundaries with loving disallowance. I know a lot of people, particularly females, that have been in relationships for a long time, and they've allowed certain boundaries to be broken so often that they find themselves miserable and depressed, and they don't know how they feel this way and that way, and they've got a lot of these mind-body issues going on. And the sad thing is many times they're on anti-anxiety medications or certain types of drugs that potentially make them addicted, or even worse, when in reality it can be broken down to the core essence of, hey, you've been letting people walk all over you for too long, and having a boundary with loving disallowance is one of the most important keys to resyncing yourself back to wholeness again as well. So take an inventory check, because this show is all about improving your state of well-being no matter where you're at. Even if you have nothing wrong with you, these 3 keys I found to be so important that you can escalate things just by making sure these are in place. So the third key is to, let's see, what is it? Is the putting yourself first. Imagine that. So putting yourself first and being selfish. This is something that is very controversial, because if you think of a selfish person, you think of somebody who, wants to get. They want to it's all mine, it's all mine. And then you think of, the corporate greed, and you think of all these certain dynamics that kind of are attributed to being selfish. Unfortunately, being selfish is one of the most important things you have to do in your life, because if you're a perpetual giver and you're not getting, you'll end up giving out. So let that sink in for a minute. If you're always into giving, but you're not into getting, you're going to give out. It's a balance. In fact, sometimes it can go so far off balance. Some people are so much of a martyr that they always want to give and they want to do good, and that they actually won't accept anything from someone else. And that's a big mistake, because when you don't accept what the universe has to offer you, you actually are robbing the giver of the joy that they receive from giving you the bounty they want to share with you. So these are 3 important keys. I'll recap them again. And it's good to do an inventory check of your life every now and then, because this has a lot to do with physical energy. And it was Dr. Alex Lloyd of the Healing Codes. He said something, and I have it actually in my notes here. I'll have to look it up later. I can't remember where it was. Oh, it's actually in my book here. I actually want to read this to you. It has to do with energy, because the lack of energy seems to be attributed to most of all the lack of ease situations people have, or dis-eases that they have in their body. So, in fact, this book right here, we just ran out of stock, but if you order from our company at rnadrops.com, we were giving these books out away. So once we get another run, we'll get some more of these out there, and a lot of other things that we have to offer as well. And I'm just trying to find this so I can share it with you, because I think it's very important. Let's see what we got here. It might be here. Yes. Okay, so if the body had no energy, it wouldn't be alive. If our cells had no energy, they wouldn't be alive. Science has repeatedly shown that many diseases are the result of a lack of energy at the cellular level. Having a weak immune system is just another way of saying lack of cellular health, energy, or vitality. Disease is the result of malfunctioning cells, and cells malfunction because of constant stress, negativity, put upon them. And that stress is due to lack of energy and nutrients. So there you go, lack of energy, lack of nutrients. Everybody wants more energy, and one of the big things people do when they want energy is they actually rob themselves of energy with energy drinks, but that's another topic. We'll get into that later. So these 3 keys have everything to do with energy. I went from having no energy and barely getting out of bed for almost 2 years, the worst 2 years ever, and to having boundless energy. I'm almost 40 years old now, and I'm working out like I was 19 again, and that's post Lyme's disease and all the other crap I've had to go through in my life. But as you can see, some of the most subtle things are some of the most powerful things when you're talking about reclaiming your well-being. And when we look at, let's go a little further here and let's take a look. Okay, so one of the most important things to pay attention to is these internal stress triggers and how we set them off. I have heard it said that it's not what happens to you that matters, but it's your state of being that matters. So it's not the circumstances, but it's the state of being that's important. So let me give you an example. Let's say that you go through a financial crisis. You've lost your job, and then you start to lose your bank accounts, and then your spouse walks out on you, and then you lose your house, and you have nothing. Now that's a major, major stress that many people would have the belief that this is tied into their existence altogether, and that type of a conflict, according to what the German New Medicine discusses, Dr. Hamer's work, creates a DHS conflict, and then when you resolve the conflict, then the certain part of your brain is triggered and it creates the disease in the body, and the disease is actually the healing phase of the conflict. So that's something to pay attention to too, is something called German New Medicine. I found that it is very eerie in its accuracy. It's so accurate it can literally blow your mind. So this whole conflict thing, we have these internal conflicts and they create these stressors in our body, and they're all based on one thing. They're based on perception. And I want to talk to you in a little bit about how you can change your perceptions and actually improve your brain function so that you can think wide scope, integrated, and you can do all these lateral, visual type computations that you don't even know that you're capable of yet. Certain people, you've gone into the states of flow. Maybe you played sports or music or something, or maybe you just meditate, and you can find a state of flow when the answers just come like magically right to you and bam, right out into the universe. They come right through you. That's the state you want to be in all the time. It's called being in the neutral state. It's when you're in a state of not wanting anything and you're in a state of not pushing against anything. So you're actually neutral. You're like a reed that bends in the storm and not like a oak that cracks. You want to remain in that neutral state. And if you can do that, you don't set off all these conflicts in the body. And it all has to do with interpretation. How you interpret any event that happens in your life is going to equate to how the experience plays out for you. In reality, we're actually like motes of dust flickering in and out of existence, like if you think of a light shining into your house and you see all these motes of dusts, that's what reality really is according to the quantum level. And we're like these quantum phenomenons that just flicker in and out of existence. So with your lying eyes, you're not even seeing what reality truly is. And you're actually going in and out of universes as fast as you can see my finger going up and down like this. You're actually like photography, all these still shots. If you run them real fast, it creates a movie. Well, that's what you're actually living, but the delusion is that you think what you see is real, but it's not. So back to the story is whatever interpretation you put on a certain event or situation determines how that situation will respond to you. So if it's the end of the world and you make a rule that this is over, that's it, game over, guess what? You're going to live that, and that's going to be your truth. You created your own self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, that's a situation I found myself in when I was really, really sick. I was creating my own self-fulfilling prophecy, and how did I get out of that? I started to tell a new story, and I started to perceive things in a different way, and then logically I started to put the right stuff in the body, and then search out for the answers, because the problem always shows up with the answer, and you are creating the world moment by moment, so your world is a reflection of you. So if you've got some horrible, dreadful condition, first of all, you created it. Second of all, the solution is already existing right now. All you have to do is vibrationally align with it, and then it will appear in your reality. That's what I know to be true, and I've experienced it, whether it has to do with money, health, relationships, whatever you want to talk about. That's what it all has to come down to. Okay, so interpretation is the main thing, and remaining in a neutral state. So no matter what method you're using, you want to remain in this neutral state of non-resistance. And hey, if I make $100 million with my company, that's cool. And if the company doesn't make $100 million, and I don't care either. You see, I don't really care myself. I've been broke, and I've also become, a millionaire, and who cares? Because it doesn't change anything, because the problems only magnify with the money, because it's all just, money is just a magnifying glass. That's all it is. But the joy actually magnifies if you're a joyful person. So that's another story. We'll get into that another time. Okay, so enough about that. We got to get into these RNA drops. This show is only going to go for another 10 minutes. So I've tried to cram it all in real quick, and let's get right to it. Something that I believe you can do right away to improve the quality of your life. And what I've got here is, if you look at this screen over here on this computer, you can go to rnadrops.com, and you can log into our knowledge base at the top where it says knowledge base, and you click on it, and it'll say Complete Essentials RNA Drops First Experience. And what you can do is you can watch these videos that I did at my house in real time. We just got this product in, and it was not even a year ago, and I'll tell you what it does in a minute, but I wanted to take a test drive, and I hooked myself up to these brain measuring devices that you can wrap around your head, and then you can tie it into your Mac or whatever computer you're using, and it'll measure these brain waves, your alpha, your beta, your theta, and your delta brain waves, and it'll show you in real time what's going on. Now, what happened when I used this was I went from this predominantly left brain alpha state, which most people are in all the time, and that has a lot to do with anxiety. If you're in a predominantly based alpha brainwave, that's like an anxiety mind state. And so the other contrast, if you get into a theta brainwave, that's like a miraculous mind state where instant manifestation can happen. But the ideal situation is when you can have both hemispheres of your brain balanced, and you can tap into logic and creativity, and that's when you can tap into this inner genius that we all have. And what happened was I started to do these videos, And in the first video, it was alpha state and left brain. And as I went further along, what happened was I started to get into the theta waves, and it would be balanced. Exactly. And that was within just a few minutes. Okay, so getting in, sorry, one second. Getting into the studies. Okay, so let's see. Where's my thing here? Okay, I have on this sheet, it says how to instantly unlock alpha brain states where super learning and creativity are enhanced and more. So there was a brain power unlocking device that was discovered back in 2003 at the Alpha Learning Institute in Switzerland by a man named Sean Adam, who has the 6th highest IQ in the world. And what he discovered was that within less than 3 seconds, if a person's even touched this substance to their saliva on their tongue, that they had the same effect on brain function as experienced meditator, like a Buddhist monk, somebody who'd been meditating for years and years and years. I'm talking about scientifically proven within less than 3 seconds, brain function balanced, like, you know, a monk. And we're talking about people that had not meditated at all, and they reached this meditative state. So the ingredient was called Monatomic Gold. Now, since 2003, Monatomic Gold has been out in certain various places, and people use it experimentally because it's really kind of a cool thing that you can use. It sometimes it makes you feel a little trippy, but you've got to realize that not all of these monatomic elements are actually that safe for you. You want to do your due diligence and figure things out so that you can remain safe first and foremost. Now, you know, fast forward several years. The M states, they call them monatomics, have evolved and they've advanced. And now they have them in a super hybrid state where it becomes an exotic matter that it's a non-metal, and it has tremendous effects on the body, and they are now doing independent research studies on it. And mark my words, it will become some of the most cutting-edge breakthrough technology in the very near future, and it's already available today. So what we did is I put together a team, and we searched out how to obtain these M states in their hybrid state, and we found a company in Switzerland out in Zurich, and we imported the ingredients in, and we made a pharmaceutical grade nutraceutical that has a pharmaceutical grade probiotic, and it has monatomic silver, gold, iridium, and ruthenium. And let me just tell you a little bit about what science is discovering about these ingredients. We talked about the gold. Let's talk about what the Scientific American Journal of May of 1995 said about ruthenium. The platinum metal ruthenium was discussed in relationship to human DNA. When single ruthenium atoms were being placed at each end of the double helix, it became 10,000 times more conductive to light. All right, so what I'm talking about is the future today. And if you go on our website, we also have in the knowledge base more and more information you can check out on our Complete Essentials RNA Drops. But this is the product right here, pharmaceutical grade advanced M states, and how you use this product. Oh, by the way, I didn't have enough time to get into it on this show, but we'll get into it at a future time. I have a 91-page report from the manufacturer, and these are all the clinical studies they've done on this. And if you go to the knowledge base, you can see I made a 1-hour audio on this same page right here, and you can listen to some of the clinical studies and get more information. So let me show you where that is. Right there. So all of it's on that page and the other links we have. But yeah, how you want to use this is you want to start with a few drops under your tongue, and you want to gradually build up. And what I did in the beginning was, I got to tell you my story because it was absolutely miraculous. Now the caveat is that I'm not going to make any claims, and I'm not going to tell you that you're going to experience the same thing. But I will tell you that thousands of people have used the product, and we get testimonials all the time. But it's all subjective. Everybody's unique. So my experience was, I had PTSD, and I used to have these attacks, and I'd have to go to the ER all the time. And even when I got myself well, I was still having these attacks. okay? And I couldn't figure out what to do. The doctors wanted to give me benzo drugs, and I was like, forget that. That stuff's more addictive than heroin. That stuff is nasty. So I didn't want to do any of that. None of the natural stuff was working, the GABA, the 5-HTP, none of that stuff was doing anything. And when I got these, started with a few drops. And then by the third day, I was taking about half a dropper full under my tongue once a day. I started to notice I felt calmer. Now, what Sean Adams discovered at the Alpha Learning Institute was that the Monatomic Gold had an immediate and cumulative effect on brain function, okay? So it gradually builds over time. By day 14, 2 weeks into it, I noticed I was free of all anxiety. And guess what? It's been almost a year now. I haven't had one single panic or anxiety attack or any of that episodes that used to bother me so much. And I can't say that this is what did it, but I know for a fact that, I know that's what did it, but I can't tell you legally that it'll do anything for you because you can't make any medical claims about products. But the thing is you can try this and you can see what happens, but I do know, and I've seen the results, that the brain function was improved, and I feel like a new person, and my mind is firing on all cylinders. I've done some of the greatest work in the last year being on this product that I've ever done in my life, and my ability to manifest and to put things together and build companies and create products is gotten so exaggerated that it's really something I'm very grateful for. So enough said about that. You can do your own research, and if you like the product, give it a try. We guarantee every product at Complete Essentials with a 30-day reverse risk guarantee. And so what that means is if you try any of our products and you use it, and 30 days later if you feel like you've gotten no benefit from it, we'll give you an exchange of equal or greater value, because I know we have some of the best products the world has to offer. And that's all there is to it. So the quality, the proof's in the pudding. And this show's almost over, so I tried to get it all in. This is our first show, and half an hour goes by so quick. I wish I could tell you more and more and more, but unfortunately our time is short. So with that said, check out the Complete Essentials RNA Drops. It is the finest M-state product on the market. Not only does it have the M-states, but it has the pharmaceutical grade probiotic in a holoresonant matrix. And some of this stuff, the technology is so advanced I can't even say some of the words that are in this report here. But mark my word, though, it's going to be what you're going to see mainstream coming real soon, because science is doubling every 3 years at a speed that we can barely comprehend, and the world we're heading to is going to be so excited if you get ahead of the curve right now. And the products are out there, and as we go forward week after week, we're going to start discussing some of the products that are out there, whether it's from my company or from other companies, and we're going to bring you the technology that can enhance your life and make your life extraordinary. So I'm not sure how much time I have, so I'm going to throw another little plug in before we go. But if you're looking for energy and you're wearing yourself out and you're using these energy drinks, check out Ultra Rush. That's at our website too. Ultra Rush is in a category all of its own. You can listen to everything, and that's it. We got to go. Great seeing you guys, and I'll talk to you next week.